What's up, guys? We're back for part 4 of the Nova LS swap today, and we're going to be mocking up the LS1 in there and just see how everything fits, and probably be cutting the floor and some other stuff. So let's take a look at it and show you guys what's going on. This episode's all about trial and error, just figuring out how it's going to work. So what you're seeing is the old motor's out of the Nova, and today we're going to be test fitting the new motor in there. So first of all, we took a measurement on what the transmission was, and overall it's about 6 inches longer than the old motor, motor and trans setup. So, we measured that, and we're cutting out the floor to fit the shifter. Pretty much just a rough cut, and then later on we got a more refined cut and got the shifter fitted in there. The old drive shaft off the Nova happens to fit the T56 perfectly, and we already cut out the hole for the shifter and measured it out, so we're about to throw that engine in there. And also the alternator doesn't clear, and one option would be to notch the frame right there, but there's a relocation kit for it for 200 bucks, so I'm just gonna buy that and call it a day. So anyways, if you're doing your own LS swap, LSX Innovations is a must-have. They just make it so much easier. You just pick Camaro spacing, truck spacing, or Corvette spacing, whatever you're working with. And then you just go and you can find any brackets and relocation kits. It would be a weekend project in its own trying to notch that frame, so it just saves so much time. And 200 bucks is quite a deal in my eyes. So I had a time-lapse recording this, but we ran into the problem with the alternator and had to pull the engine back out. So I'm not going to include that, but this isn't the last time this engine's coming out of the car, so I'll be sure to get that next time. Got a lot of progress done on the Nova the other day. We got the engine in there, and it was mainly trial and error, so I didn't get a whole lot of footage done. But, I'm just going to run through some of the things that I found out. So, alternator is mounted right there, which would hit the frame. So we pulled that off of there, and I ordered a relocation kit for it. And, the other big thing, it's going to be our oil pan clearance right there on the steering shaft. So we really just got about an 1/8 inch of daylight right there, and somehow got to sort that out. When you turn all the way that way, that turn in the bar is going to hit that and limit the steering. So we got to sort that out. Another big thing we're dealing with is this is a unibody car, so this is actually a lot of structure right there. So we can't cut that all the way out. And as you can see, the shifter lines up just on the edge of it. So we're gonna have to cut back. You can see our hole right there, it doesn't go all the way back. So we're gonna have to cut another inch out of there. And then, I'm gonna have to get some 1/4 inch plate and reinforce this bar right here just to add a little bit more structure. And possibly even bend up a tube that fits the contour of the floor, just to add a little extra structure in, since we're cutting out that, so much of that structure right in there. So, just gotta fit the shifter in there. And we thought about moving the motor mounts, just moving it along that, but everything else is already in place. So we really just gotta adjust right here. As for the T56 Crossmember, I was thinking about trying to adjust that one, but it's gonna be easiest just using the stock mount and then building off of that to connect to the frame rails. Alright guys, so I've never built a transmission Crossmember, but it doesn't seem too bad. I already got some weld plates clamped up top, and this way prevents putting a lot of stress on the bolt, because most of the weight of the transmission is just going straight into the frame, and the bolts just keep it aligned really. So pretty much what I gotta do is connect from this point, and then span over, and then drop it down, connect to the mount, go back up, and connect to there. So my main concern with it is that the Crossmember won't have enough room to get out of there. So what I did is space the edge of it where it's not hanging off, and I'm gonna tack it all together and make sure it still comes out with the transmission up there. went ahead and got the main piece in there. So now I just cut out another one, and the plan is to connect it up there and then tie down with another one right there. Alright guys, so I pulled the transmission crossmember off of there and it just barely pulls off of there. So I got pretty lucky on that one. And I pulled it off and tacked it together really well and started welding it out. Polishes up really nice. The fit isn't bad. There's some stuff I gotta work on like that just to, the bandsaw I'm using was just making crooked cuts, so I'm just gonna have to grind that off and clean it up. Pretty happy with it. It's looking pretty good. Next thing I'm working on in this Nova is trying to fit the radiator in here. So our coolant hose is already gonna fit, that's given. And the only problem we're having right here is that the radiator cap is gonna be too high and not clear the hood. So pretty much what I'm gonna do right here is just lower the bottom part of the core support about 3 to 4 inches and then try to get some mounts figured out for this thing. So what I'll do is just cut a straight line from those to the end of that slot all the way over, straight line to that. And then I can suspend the radiator from the top and make sure that I'm gonna have good clearance. And then figure out mounting, to weld the core support back in on the bottom. Now the core support's cut on out of there, so now we're just gonna test fit that radiator. And it kind of missed right there. You can see it just didn't quite cut enough, but might be able to fit the radiator at an angle. Over here is pretty good except for the very end. I just caught that and left a pretty sharp end, but I think it may work and we can clean that up and then hopefully this radiator will fit in there. Moving on to the test fitting phase, I got the radiator in there. Just held up with zip ties going to the overflow and coolant hose right there. So pretty much what we're gonna do is we got this on the top of the core support, and then I'm gonna drill a hole in that ear on the radiator, and then same thing over here. And I'll have to figure out some kind of mounting way with a combination of washers. But for right now, I'm just gonna use zip ties and try to get a good fitment on it. Holes are drilled in the radiator. There's one, and there's two. So I did a really quick cutout on some mounts, and later on, if they work, I will fix them up a little bit. But the idea is that's going to connect up to there with machine screws, and that's just to really keep the front end aligned. Bottom part, I'm going to try to cut up that, or not cut it up, but try to weld it in there with spacers, just because the radiator has these stops right there where it sits on, and that's where most of the support comes from. First mount's done, and second one's just about to go up there. That'll put us in a good spot up top, and then I can position, get the car up on the lift and position the bottom. So yeah, it's looking great. Also, just another thing to keep in mind is the electric fans aren't on there right now. So once I get this done, I'm going to try to put the fans on there and see if everything still fits. And, the main thing I've been looking at is the radiator over here, the cap. So by the time this is lifted up right there, that cap clears just perfect, and I'm thinking it'll clear the hood just fine. Yeah. So the mounts turned out a lot better than I was thinking, and hoses still fit perfectly. You can see that's the upper hose and then the lower hose right there. And that's a really nice time saver, just using this radiator. So I just got to do the bottom support and we're good to go. Just went ahead and threw the fans in there. Everything fits pretty well. We got clearance on the hoses and fits the frame pretty well. We got some room right there. You can see some gap, but you know, just the way the hoses are, that's the best way to fit it. And tomorrow I'm going to be building those lower mounts for the radiator. And then I bent up some rod right there. I think that's 1/4 inch rod. And I'm going to connect this and just use that little tab right there and connect up into the subframe right there. So it'll fit kind of like that. And I'm just using those clamps to hold it up. I mean, it's in there. Look at that. So it's definitely not the best looking design, but you know, it's nice and easy and it's gonna hold it in place just fine. Got the upper mounted up there, and then this is really just holding the weight of it. There's nothing holding the back from sliding off of there, but you know, it doesn't move at all. Like I'm pushing on it right here and it's not gonna move, so I think that'll do it. Alright guys, so the transmission crossmember turned out good, but it's way too low and I didn't see that till I lowered it on the ground. You know, this is only 5 or 6 inches off the ground, so I'd just be dragging speed bumps. And I've kind of been avoiding it the whole time, but I'm gonna have to cut this whole bar out right here. And then I'll add in another one right here and just kind of follow that contour of the floor. And like I said before, that's a lot of structure to the car, so I'm gonna have to add that thing in. And then I'm gonna try to raise that whole shifter box up into the floor. And then by that time, I think I should be more level with the frame rail right here. So I'll cut another piece that'll fit as that bottom member, that'll fit on the inside of that, and then just raise it up to the height I need it to be, weld in the new one, and then cut the bottom off. That's gonna wrap up today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Next episode, I'll be working on the transmission crossmember, as well as that kit that I ordered just came in the mail for the alternator, so I'm going to work on that. And then I forgot to tell you, but the headers that I have don't work, so I ordered some new ones of those. So maybe I can get those bolted up and even start on an exhaust. So guys, stay tuned. I'll see you next time.